This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on April 18th, 2025. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. I'm Professor CyberRisk, here with Cyber Cowboy, and this week we had a near cybersecurity apocalypse. A cyber crisis unfolded, and it was all around CVE. And then also the Russians hacked DOGE, but we'll get into that with an asterisk. All right, in this episode, we explore the latest developments in cybersecurity with a focus on two major events. The first one is how the Trump administration decision to cut the CVE funding from CISA almost caused an amazing, extraordinary problem. Although by the end of the week, it looked like it was a miracle that stopped that from happening. The second one is we're going to talk a little bit about a hack that happened on a Decentralized Autonomous Organization, or a DAO, of Dogecoin, the original Doge, not government Doge. And we're going to highlight potential implications for decentralized finance and cybersecurity as a whole. Cyber Cowboy, what's going on with you this evening?
I am ready to rock and roll. This
right.
CVE thing really shook the foundations of cybersecurity. So what a great topic.
Yeah, it's not bad enough that we're getting hacked left and right. We have to kind of do it to ourselves, so to speak. So, okay, with our top story, the Trump administration cuts funding to Critical Vulnerability Exploit Program, or the CVE program, at CISA. The program is managed out of the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, and helps to disseminate information about newly discovered vulnerabilities in software. Now, anyone that's used CVE, if you're in cybersecurity, you definitely know about it. If you're learning about cybersecurity, you definitely know about it, and maybe you've heard about it if you're not in there. It is the database. It is what feeds everything that's vulnerability related. You can go back and look at anything that's been out for, I don't even know how many years. I'm going to say 20 years. I could be wrong on that, but it feels like it's at least that long. This has, though, been a story 5+ years in the making, because back in October of 2020, during President Trump's first administration, there was a proposed elimination for funding of the CVE program then, and that was part of a larger budget proposal. Without support, CVE vendors and organizations, those that use it, could face longer response times when dealing with cybersecurity vulnerabilities, or have no knowledge whatsoever of what's going on, let alone their systems working, and we'll get into that in a second. The proposed cuts that almost happened could impact broader ramifications across the cybersecurity community by reducing overall visibility into newly discovered threats, previously discovered threats, and making it more difficult to prioritize and address them effectively. Yeah, what ended up happening, though, is there was a Hail Mary at the end, and CISA actually came up for air and said, no, we have funding and we're going to fund it. I forget for how long, Cyber Cowboy. Was it 6 months?
11 months.
11 months. Yeah. Wow. Just wow.
Yeah, I mean, the program, originally funded by the Homeland Security, but MITRE has always been sort of the main ones operating it. And just to talk about the cost and importance of this, right, in 2016, MITRE was actually struggling to keep up. They had massive backlogs in IDing assignments within the CVEs. There was frustration, there was criticism, and if you look at, in 1999, was really the first batch of CVEs that came out. By 2020, there are over 200,000 CVEs in that database.
Wow.
And these CVEs, they are assigned a criticality. They give you details about the vulnerability and how it takes place and what it grants the attacker. And these are critical for small and medium businesses who have small cybersecurity programs to really be able to keep up, and they're really critical in automation, right? All of the major vulnerability scanners tend to pull from the CVE database. Um, DISA in the government, uh, Nessus, right? The program is it's crucial to the national security and survival of our cybersecurity posture. And so um, I
Well,
know it's
I would go
only
further than that. I would go further than
yeah.
that, Cyber Cowboy. It's not just critical to U.S. national security; it's critical to global cybersecurity. I mean, who doesn't use the CVE database? It's publicly available. Everyone does. Everyone.
Everyone. Right. And it's not just, I know I said DoD and government, but it's not just that national security, it's the global economy national security,
Yeah,
right? It touches and reaches everything. And it's a
everything.
must have.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day, and what's the backup plan? Like, what happens in 11 months? Let's assume worst case scenario, right? We almost have worst case scenario, so let's just talk about it. Funding dries up 11 months from now, not coming back, right? At least not during this current political cycle. What's the backup plan? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I read that the board members got together and made a nonprofit. That was sort of their nuclear emergency option when they thought funding wasn't going to come back through. And so, if I was a betting man, I'd say crowdsource. I think you're going to see a outcry and outreach with all the major CEOs from all aspects, IT, technology, banking, and I think they're going to somehow pool money together to make sure this doesn't die if the
Yeah,
federal government doesn't continue to fund it.
yeah. I mean, maybe non-governmental organization is the right way to go for this, especially since it has global ramifications. But to your point, if if the government kept it around, I mean, I think that I don't know, Cyber Command might be a natural fit if it was going to stay if it's considered of national security importance, right? US Cyber Command has a mandate to not only uh, attack, go offensive in cyberspace, but also defend in cyberspace. Maybe that's the place for it to go. If no funding came out, maybe it just gets absorbed in their budget, and it's just part of a line item that they have to accomplish at that point.
Yeah, I think if it comes out of an FFRDC like MITRE, I think Cybercom is the logical landing place. I still think it should stay within the federal government in some way, shape, or form, just because of how it operates and feeds. It makes sense to be within MITRE. MITRE has MITRE attack and defend frameworks, and CVE is an integral part of all of that. And so I still think that makes the most sense. But yes, if it had to move somewhere else, I think Cybercom really should look at picking it up.
Yeah, I mean, well, at least we have about a year to figure out whatever's going to happen, and I think the foot stomp here, which is hopefully going to be interpreted as non-political, is this is something that is so important and has been so important that public availability of it is an absolute necessity. If this was not maintained in the federal space and was not maintained by an NGO and ended up becoming the space of a private corporation, I would be far more concerned about that because the criticality here it's beyond scale, right? I don't know from a cyber defensive platform posture, from an automation standpoint, from a defend in real time standpoint, that eliminating or privatizing CVE would actually be at all useful. I think it would disrupt too many platforms, too many services across the board that plug into it to allow things to operate at known speed.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't know anything about who owns, the main CV website and database. Would they hand it over if it went public? Right. All It's a far more complex issue than it reads initially.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Okay, let's walk away from the almost apocalypse in cybersecurity and let's talk about Russian hackers and their standard hijinks, although this time a little more money involved, right? So, our second story tonight is that Russian hackers targeted Decentralized Autonomous Organization of DOGE, specifically Dogecoin. Now, for those that don't know, and everyone that is now familiar with DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, Dogecoin, other than being something that Elon Musk has been affiliated with as kind of like a full-time endorser of, has nothing to do with Doge in any direct way, like nothing to do with the Department of Government Efficiency that's operating inside of OPM. Dogecoin is its own cryptocurrency and has been around for a very long time. So what happened? Well, the hackers exploited the Doge DAO for approximately 30 million worth of crypto in what was what's being called a flash loan attack, which was carried out, like I said, by those that are believed to be of Russian origin. The attack took place and took advantage of a vulnerability in what's known as smart contracts that are used by the DAO. And DeFi, or decentralized finance platforms, and their users need to be aware that this is a thing. Cyber Cowboy, you know a lot, at least a little bit more, probably more than me, about smart contracts. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, definitely. So a flash loan is you use that smart contract because you don't need any collateral, and it's a amount of cryptocurrency, right? So you borrow a large amount of currency, you perform operations with the funds, and then you repay the loan plus any fees, all within the same transaction, right? So when you do a flash loan attack, they use it to manipulate prices and exploit the smart contract logic and then drain out those funds because you don't need upfront capital. It can be executed instantly, right? You can manipulate token prices to buy at an artificially lower price. You can take advantage of that poor smart contract validation. At the end of the day, what is boiled down to problems in the code around smart contracts, right? And they need to look at, cryptocurrency by and by is still new, right? And it is still growing. And so they need to start looking at certain defenses to put in place against flash loan attacks, like a time weighted average price rather than instantaneous prices, right? Transaction cooldowns,
Doesn't
limit
that
asset supplies,
doesn't that
all
defeat the
standard
purpose
things.
though of cryptocurrency? I mean, wasn't one of the well, and we'll get into whether or not it should be, but one of the foot stomps was it's faster than traditional finance. So if we
Right,
slowed it down, why would I want to use it?
right.
I'm
It's
just
one of those things, right?
yeah,
It's a CIA triad all over again, right?
yeah.
Availability, the A in the CIA triad, right? Availability becomes the thing. Do you lower availability to help prevent attacks against your cryptocurrency?
Right. And this is going to become I think it's already a big problem. It's only going to get bigger because we are past the early adoption stage for crypto, right? It used to be the realm of only those who uh were really into tech, your hyper geeks, um your IT folk, your nefarious hacker groups that are trying to hide their financial transactions. But now, anybody can log into any, we'll call them reputable exchanges. Some are more reputable than others, I would argue. Um, Take real currency, convert it into a cryptocurrency, and trade it. Just like anything else. Now, tax law, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff is out there, of course. But yeah, there are people now that are doing major financial moves inside of crypto that aren't technically savvy, which is just leaving them open to more and more vulnerability. I mean, tonight we're only talking about a loss of 30 million. Only a loss of 30 million, right? Whereas last week we're talking about the Australian super funds, and who knows, that was hundreds of millions of dollars. Uh, that's like when when you can get away with in our business saying only losing 30 million, we're on the wrong side of the equation, just simply put.
100%. And when you start looking at as 401ks and large investment funds start to also get involved with cryptocurrency, then these thefts are coming right out of people's pockets, right? People who rely on those to be able to retire, and so yeah, we've just like anything else, we've got to look at how the attackers are manipulating the system and put proper defenses in place. There are simple ones that can be put in place too, like there's no sort of sanity check within the code of smart contracts to alert on price manipulation within these flash loans.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe not necessarily, maybe the solution is not necessarily slowing it down, but, is there a way to enhance the platform or enhance the code base for a given cryptocurrency so that there are other things in place that help with mitigation, right? Is there something that could alert for price manipulation very much the way the traditional stock markets do? That's a great idea. I don't know I don't know, and I know that you have your Bitcoin, which is its own sort of cryptographic thing. You have Ethereum based things, which are their own cryptographic based things. I think, if I remember correctly, Dogecoin was based on Bitcoin's algorithm, but is different. So there might be something there that could be easily bolted on, or maybe all of these cryptocurrencies. As much as I, don't want to suggest this for anybody's pocket, maybe all of these go away and they give rise to something else that is got more robust security built into its algorithms.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the attack in 2020 on BZX, was a protocol attack. So it's not new and different and unique attacks. These are the same problems we've been seeing all the way back into the first time we took advantage of the TCP protocol, right?
So maybe it's just the fundamentals of the internet that are broken, whether it be Web 1, Web 2, crypto at Web 3. Maybe we won't get it right until we're at Web 6 or 7, 8, or 10. But AI will be running everything by then, so I'm sure it'll be fine. Everything will be fine.
All hail our AI overlords.
Yes. Please be good to us in the studio. We promise to behave. All right, let's see what else we have tonight. Okay, Microsoft has warned of actively exploited iOS flaws used in targeted attacks. So Microsoft's Defender ATP threat intelligence team discovered two new actively exploited vulnerabilities: CVE 2021-37-973 and CVE 2021-37-97-4 in Apple's iOS operating system. These vulnerabilities allow attackers to gain arbitrary code execution on affected devices by manipulating specifically crafted web content using the WebKit browser engine. The attacks so far have been observed against high-profile individuals, including those in the technology industry and government officials. And all of the devices that have been impacted are anything from as early as the iPhone 6S moving forward, all the iPad Pro models, the iPad 2 Air 2, and the iPad Mini 4 and later. So basically anything that is still supported by Apple, and probably a couple items that aren't. I don't know what the full list is anymore, but it's significant enough. The thing that scares me the most about this is not the hack itself. Okay, great. That it's a vulnerability in WebKit. And for those that don't know, WebKit is the back end engine that iOS uses for anything that touches the internet via the phone or the iPad.
Yeah, and when specifically I mean Safari.
Well, no, as far as I'm aware, any web browser on iOS's platform, and maybe they changed something more recently, but as far as I'm aware, any browser has to use the WebKit engine. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. So, and that's been that. The reason Apple did that is, at least they claim, was for security. So it doesn't matter if it's Safari. It could be Safari. It could be Chrome. It could be Edge. It could be Brave. It could be, I don't know if Opera has a browser on the iPhone, but any type of web interface you have is going to be using WebKit. Which means if there's a vulnerability in WebKit, it doesn't matter what you're using. Your phone's got to get patched by Apple itself before any of those technologies are going to be inherently safe to use again, or not as vulnerable, might be a better way to say it.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, I mean, it primarily affected Apple's Safari because back in the day that was their web browser, and then as they introduced the ability to use other web browsers because some people just want to use Chrome, like you said, they just use that to make any web browser on their iOS and iPad OS to be able to work. And when you start getting into those WebKit attacks, it's just like everything else, right? 0 days, man in the browser attacks specifically, which does everything from redirects to fake websites, steal login credentials, inject malicious code, and some of these WebKit attacks can actually reach down into the operating system itself, right? And pwned. I
Yeah,
am your phone.
I am your phone. I wonder if that enhanced security feature that Apple added to iOS, the lockdown mode or whatever, would be able to help mitigate some of this. But then again, you're also killing other. This goes back to the CIA. Try it again. You're killing other features on the phone that unless you are, and in this case, it looks like some were government officials or those that have or would know they need to be concerned at that level. You wouldn't lock your phone down like that. So yeah, I just absolutely yet another hole in the armor. And what's worse is, right, so if I own your phone in today's modern environment, I own your network, which means I can get into your place of business, which means I can then get to something even more valuable than just what was on your phone.
Oh
Because
yeah, when
that,
you talk about BYOD, right? Bring your
yeah,
own device.
well, not
Oh,
even BYOD,
scary
issued
idea.
issued devices, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, go to any major corporation, and I'm sure there's midsize or small business. I don't want to leave you guys out. You can get hacked too. But go to any major corporation, any large scale business, they're most likely will have a program that issues a corporate phone to its employees. Right? It could be Android, could be iOS. Some of them choose for you. Some of them let you make that choice. But if that's directly tied to your employer's network now. And now, until Apple issues an update, that device is vulnerable. So there's nothing that your business. I mean, what's your business going to do? It's going to stop WebKit from working. Then what are you going to use the phone for except for making phone calls?
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, lockdown mode um, raises the bar in the difficulty, but still does not prevent you from those WebKit vulnerabilities, right? Especially logic bugs. That gets around lockdown and again availability of using your phone. Who makes just phone calls anymore on their phone? Like
Do you even
that's
make phone
ridiculous.
calls on your phone anymore?
I try not to.
Yeah, it's
Right?
like a
It's
rarity.
text and email. Who's calling me?
Right?
What is happening?
Or I probably would do. Honestly, I'll end up doing FaceTime or some sort of video chat more than I'll just do an audio call. I think audio calling is, while it used to be a dominant feature, I don't. And chat. Give us some comments down below. I don't know many people that just make phone calls anymore. It seems to be like a more minority type of activity on the device as opposed to a majority activity. It's just kind of interesting how we collectively morphed in that direction once there were other options available to us.
100%. Especially the younger generation, right? They don't make calls. They don't make calls.
Okay, in our last story tonight, CISA warns of increased malicious use of open source software components. So if it's not bad enough that closed source things are getting hacked, now open source has a problem too. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, also known as CISA, issued a warning about increased use of open source software components in attacks. Attackers often exploit known vulnerabilities in popular OSS components to gain access to in an unauthorized manner. And CISA has been warning us and observing this since at least 2021. Now, remember, CISA is not that old of an organization, so their records don't go back too far. But in 2021, they observed a significant increase in malicious activity related to OSS components. And some of those vulnerabilities included things like, and if you would like some of the greatest hits, Log4j, Apache struts, and the thing that was supposed to save us all, which would be OpenSSL. So yeah, the stuff that makes up the internet has shown vulnerability. Now, to be clear, Log4j, that vulnerability, quite old. However, if unpatched even today, you're going to get hacked. And there is still software that will use Log4j things that are unpatched. One easy example, since you brought up kids just before Cyber Cowboy, are Minecraft servers. Now, modern Minecraft servers, things that are version whatever, 120 or something like that, are fine. But there are people that run servers that are older than that on purpose for features or whatever, and those are now vulnerable. If they haven't patched with the appropriate Log4j patches or shut things down or whatnot, it's just there. It's just part of what's in the code base.
Right, and you look at other countries, right, that there are botnets out there that still sit on Windows XP machines that are still running in the wild, right? Which is crazy to think about, but yeah. So all of these things are still out there; they still exist. Open source is great because 9 times out of 10 it's free, it's quick, you get all the code. But hey, guess what? So do the bad guys,
Yeah,
and
and
they're
who
getting in
actually
there and they're reverse engineering that code,
and
right?
who
Depending
actually
on level of sophistication.
who actually understands all of that code, right? I think with SSL, it's a dozen or so people on the planet that really understand it well enough to know if there's a vulnerability or are able to check it well enough for vulnerabilities. So just because it's open source and just because you can read the code doesn't mean you understand what you're reading. And I don't mean that to be that we don't have smart programmers out there that can read code and understand it. I mean at a very fundamental level, the level of expertise needed for some of these heavier things that much of our infrastructure runs on and relies on. The pool of people that can really fix it is hyper limited. So that's a thing. Although AI may be able to do that since the industry is expecting within a year that most programmers are going to be replaced. So that's a thing. Who knows?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we're going to have a near term uh, show just on AI within cybersecurity, right? And I know we've also talked about adding on our virtual SOC here a board that shows monetary is lost or stolen from cyber attacks, right? I think we're going to name it the SAD board or something. But when you look at to go back a topic here, I found an interesting tidbit by accident. So in 2023, $200 million in losses were directly attributed to flash loan attacks.
200 million?
200 million in 2023, just in flash loan attacks. That's not all cyber attacks. That is just
Just
in flash loan
flash loan
attacks.
attacks. Wow. Again, I stress we may be on the wrong side of the equation. Now, I remember when I was teaching at university that we actually did a number of global output product or global GDP basically. I don't remember what the acronym is anymore, but the amount that was being lost to cyber attack was something on the order of like 1% of global output. Think about that for a minute. And this is now we're going back a while. We're not going to put an exact number on it, everybody, but 1% of global output is not an insignificant number. That's troubling, and that's probably only going up in this perpetual chicken and egg game we have with cyber attacks.
100%.
Okay, well, I believe that's all for this week. I'm your professor of CyberRisk.
Oh, I'm having a technical glitch. I think I lost audio. You still with me, Professor
I'm still
CyberRisk?
with you. I was saying, I think that's all we have for this week. I'm the professor of
Ah,
CyberRisk.
perfect. I'm Cyber Cowboy, and look, we need more people in the field. And if you're complaining about cybersecurity, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the server room. Stay frosty, folks.
Good night, everybody. That's all for the news this week. I'm your professor of CyberRisk. We'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.